So welcome back, everybody. This is John with SwingFit. Today, we are wrapping up our three-part wedge series in order to help you understand how we take our customers through the wedge fitting process, with the first two steps being loft and bounce. And today is the cool one because we're talking about, of course, those Swiss Army knives. I mean, this has to be the most versatile wedge in your bag. I mean, this wedge has to be able to help you get out of all of those precarious situations that you may encounter when you are on the golf course. I'm talking about those tight lies, fluffy lies, beats like sand, hard packed clay, maybe even hitting it out of the gallery off a hard pan. This wedge just has to be that flexible. So without further ado, let's jump in and find out how grind can potentially help you be that versatile ninja around the golf course. Now, before I get too deep into grind, I do have to do a little cleanup here because I realized that there was an important clip that got omitted from yesterday's video. And that is helping you understand the two-player profiles that we have to accommodate when we are picking and choosing the correct bounce. And without question, you will definitely fall into one of these two-player profiles, with the first being those from a steep delivery. And I'm not really referring to is where is the shaft on the way up, right? You know, it's okay for it to be very vertical, up and down, but I'm talking about where is the shaft on the way down, right? If it is actually more towards between 12 and 1 o'clock, then that's a great indicator that you have a steep swing, and even regardless of your divot. Because I have customers that can hit down on the ball 7 to 8, but never take a divot. Why? Because they've learned to compensate at the bottom, and they start letting the club head pass their hands or adding dynamic loft, and they're just really compounding the situation. Here, just by going with a little extra bounce, you're going to protect that leading edge from digging into the turf. So if you have noticed that your shaft on the way down is between 12 and 1, then definitely going with a little extra bounce can help you out. Now, let's talk about the shallow swings. Now, this profile will be for those golfers that like to let that shaft fall between 2 and 3 o'clock as they initiate the downswing. And here, you're definitely going to be delivering it from more of a shallower state. So by going with lower bounce, this could potentially be your best course of action, because what's at risk for you is that trailing edge of that bounce coming into contact with the turf because of how shallow you are. And all that's going to do is potentially just cause you to blade the ball across the green. But once again, please understand that, you know, I have several customers that have AOAs as maybe 2 degrees down, 3 degrees down, very, very shallow, but still take big divots. So it can happen, and that's all going to depend on how you release the club at the bottom. So just be cautious about choosing your bounce based off of your divot size, and I would rather recommend that you select a bounce based off of where the shaft is in transition. So now that we got that out of the way, let's get back on track with step 3. But before doing so, let's take a quick second to welcome any new viewers to the channel. And you almost kind of got a good preview of what this channel is all about. So if you are interested in learning more about the club fitting process and really want to gain a better understanding of why a club fitter might do certain things during the fit process, then I can promise you, you are in the right place, and you're just a couple clicks away from gaining access to this information each and every single week. So consider hitting that subscribe button below and turn on that bell so this way you receive an alert when we drop our new content. Now, there's no disputing that this is my favorite part of the wedge fitting process. Why? Because this is truly where we can help our customers be creative around the golf course to hit that impossible shot. I mean, a multitude of shots from the different type of live situations that they may face with just one golf club. And this is why I describe that as the best Swiss Army knife. So let's take a look at the customer's initial baseline shots with the first lob wedge, while also helping you understand what we are looking for. Now, we do things a little differently at this phase of the fit. One, we're not looking at a bunch of different wedge options. Here, we're only looking at 2 grinds because these are the 2 most versatile grinds in the Vokey lineup. We're looking at the M grind and the L grind. Both of them are 60-degree wedges, but just like in yesterday's video, we're going to turn it back to 59, so that way we have that perfect 5 degrees of loft progression. And the other thing that we do a little differently is we're going to have the customer hit 3 different types of shots. And what you just watched was that partial 70 to 75 yard swing in. And then we also want to hit some chip shots and fly flop shots. And the number one thing I'm looking for is proximity to hole. You know, does spin matter? Sure. Does the apex and the descent? Maybe a little less, because it's just, you know, you don't have that much energy. But there's no disputing that proximity of the hole, if I can help you get it closer with all three of these different types of shots, then I know we're cooking with gas and we found the best grind. Now, as we take a look at the numbers, you know, please understand, I'm not saying that launch, backspin, descent, or apex isn't important. I will look at those numbers if I'm actually comparing one wedge against another. And I'll use these as check boxes or outliers to determine which wedge is checking more boxes. But in this situation, since we know we're sticking with one family, you know, I'm gonna just look at that proximity of hole, because I need to help my customers get it tighter in all different types of situations. And as we see here, this one didn't perform too dang on bad. I mean, we're talking an average of 6 feet 9 inches. So, you know, pretty good chance that you can tap it in for par or even make a couple birdies with that. But you know what, can we do better? So let's take a look at these shots with the 60.04, which is the L grind, and we're gonna turn it down to 59.03. Now, it already appears that the L grind is edging out the M grind just by a fraction, as there was a couple nice tight shots in there, but we really never know until we look at the data. But before doing so, let me share this little golden nugget, and that is at this part of the fit, I'm gonna have my customer hit anywhere between 10 to 15 shots per wedge, per style. So this way I give the customer enough opportunities to show me their 5 best swings with each situation. And that way, when I extract them, I truly am comparing apples to apples. Remember, the first thing I'm looking at is that proximity to the hole. Are we tighter? And no disputing. I mean, look, I have 3 flashing red numbers there. That means that it's all within a 5-foot radius. And when you look at the previous ones, we had one of them within a 5-foot radius. So, you know, would you rather putt from 5 feet or 10 feet? I mean, I don't think there's any question, right? We went from 6 foot 9 inches to averaging out 5 foot 11 inches. So a full foot better. Definitely, I like how this one performed. There's something else I want to kind of bring to your attention, and that is when we go over to the compare tab here, right? This wedge, right, the L grind is actually going a little bit farther, and it's actually generating more ball speed. Why? Probably because the customer's swinging it a little bit faster. So let's verify. So when we go over to the club data, yep, sure enough, look, he's went from 69 miles an hour club head speed to almost 72. So that's almost a 3 mile an hour club head speed spike. Was it because of the customer swing? No. If you remember from yesterday's video, there's a good explanation. That is that the bounce, the material on the bottom of the wedge, can create friction and slow and impede your performance. It can actually slow you down. So let this be a little golden nugget, is if you're currently struggling with distance control with any of your wedges, then there's a pretty good chance that the bounce or grind is impeding that performance. And this is just another trick of the trade that a club fitter can get you dialed in to get that magic number that you're chasing. So, you know, just keep that in the back of your mind. But, you know, definitely, you know what? One leg up. I like the L grind, so let's move on to the chips. Now, who doesn't like a good fight? This is going to come down to the wire because the M actually got back into the race. I mean, it outperformed the L grind, and I'm going to help you understand why. But first things first, let's take a look at proximity, and without question, every single one of those shots within a 5-foot radius. I mean, 5 best shots versus 5 best shots, it outperformed the L. And you just look at the distance, right? The L was just kind of lacking a little bit of luster there and couldn't make it all the way to the cup. here is the explanation. When we look at the compare tab, you know, remember how in the previous partial swing, the L actually went a little bit farther? And that's because the M is more efficient at getting in and out of the turf. Just take a look. Ball speed, 34 versus 31. And when we look at club data, it's 34 versus 32. So they almost kind of reverse roles with the chip. And here is the understanding of why that is with the chip, pretty good chance you're trying to keep the flight down. You want to actually land it before the cup, so that way it has a fighting chance to roll in. And here, in order to do that, you're going to play ball back, maybe hands a little bit forward. And with this setup, you don't have to worry about the bounce or grind coming into play. You have to worry about that leading edge. And here, having a little bit more bounce can protect that leading edge from digging down. And that's exactly what we saw, and why some of those chips with the lower bounce, the L grind, actually just fell a little short. But leaving it below the hole is not necessarily a bad thing. We just don't want to blow it past. So I do have a couple good thoughts, and although the M actually definitely has a leg up, and those proximities was phenomenal, we still got one more test. So let's take a look. Now that's not a bad way to finish out the wedge fitting test. Both of those wedges flat out performed in the flop phase. And I mean, just take a look. 4 out of 5 for each wedge was within that 5-foot radius, but we do have to declare a clear winner so that way we can pick the correct wedge. And here I'm leaning towards the L over the M. Why? Because of that proximity of the hole. I mean, we're talking 3 feet versus 6 feet. That's twice as close, and that's just going to give you a better chance, a higher probability of dropping some in the cup with the lower bounce, at least for this customer. And there's a couple other schools of thought here that I want to kind of help you understand as well, especially when we declare the overall winner, right? Because if you've been keeping track, the L grind won 2 of the 3 tests. The one test it didn't beat out was the chip because of that leading edge. And here we got 2 possible solutions. One, we can actually just not use the 59 for those chips and go back to the sand wedge, right? That's a great option, and just using the correct utility can be the world of difference. But the other thing is maybe if we spend a little bit more time in practice, we can actually find what is the ideal hand position and ball position to get those chips just perfect. And that's what I'm going to probably recommend to the customer, because this way it can truly be that Swiss Army knife. But 2 out of 3 is why I'm going to choose the L grind in this situation. But there's one last golden nugget of why I'm actually going to choose the L grind. So let's peel it back. And without question, this is the best piece of advice I will share with anybody that's thinking about buying some new wedges. And that is, please consider going with a different bounce and grind in every single one of your wedges, just like we did with this set makeup. We went with the standard bounce, standard grind in the gap wedge, went with the 54M in the sand wedge, and we chose the 59L for the lob wedge. And this really is going to give the customer the ultimate flexibility around the golf course, so no matter what situation he encounters, I'm talking beach-like sand, hard-packed sand, tight lies, fluffy lies, cart path, hitting out of the gallery stands, he's going to have a weapon of choice, because we took the time to find a different bounce and grind to allow him to escape that danger. So guys, we truly hope you found value in this information we share with you today. And if you did find value, please smash that thumbs up to let us know that you like the content. And if you are enjoying our content, then definitely don't keep it to yourself. Forward this link on to any of your buddies, your friends, colleagues, or coworkers, and let them know what we're trying to do in the golfing community. And before I forget, don't forget to click on one of these links over here, because that's part 1 and part 2 to really complete the wedge fitting process. So guys, until next week, thanks for watching.